Hi there, Smart Drivers. Rick from Smart Drive Test talking to you today about merging onto a highway, a freeway, or a motorway. Interstates for those of you in the United States. And this isn't for the people who are merging onto the highway. This is for the people who are already on the highway and are helping other people to merge out onto the roadway. Because as I've said in previous videos, merging onto an interstate, a freeway, or a motorway is a team event, and everybody needs to participate. Now, just before we get started here, if you're working towards a license or starting a career as a truck or bus driver, be sure to hit that subscribe button right about there. That way you'll get access to all of the great information as I get it available for you. Now, one of the things, I've had several questions from smart drivers here asking me if they can stop on the acceleration lane. Now, let me be kind of clear about this. The answer is no, do not stop on the acceleration lane. Have I been clear about that? Do not stop on the acceleration lane. Get your vehicle up to the flow of traffic and merge onto the highway, freeway, or motorway. It is a completely unpredictable action if you stop on the acceleration lane and you are going to be rear-ended. And not only that, if you're lucky enough to escape being rear-ended, you're going to be cussed and cursed by other drivers, me especially. Do not stop on the acceleration lane. Unless the traffic is backed up and bumper to bumper, you need to get the vehicle up to the flow of traffic and merge onto the highway. Other vehicles will slow down, they will move over, they will help you get onto the highway. And if you want to have grief about this and argue with me about this, leave a comment down in the comment section. I'll be more than happy to have a go with you. Do not stop on the acceleration lane. It is an unpredictable action. It's like this guy who stopped halfway through a turn. You're expecting the person to go around the corner and continue. If you're having difficulty with your turn, abort the turn. Do not abort accelerating onto a freeway. Once you get onto that acceleration lane, you are committed. Go. Get your foot into it and go. Other traffic will help you. As a driving instructor said to me, other vehicles on the roadway have three choices. They can wait for you, they can go home, and he had some expletives added into that going home part, or they can crash into you. And most of the time, other traffic on the roadway is not going to crash into you. So get going. And I also had a comment from Jeff at All Wheel Driving Academy, and he talked about other vehicles on the roadway helping people to merge onto a freeway, a highway, or a motorway, or an interstate. And yes, you have to help them do that. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And in the break here, I'll calm down a little bit and not get so excited about, not stopping on acceleration lanes when you're merging. So we're going to go out to the car and we're going to show you how to help other people to merge onto a highway, an interstate, and a freeway. So stick around. We'll be right back with that information. Welcome back. Rick from Smart Drive Test talking to you today about lane merging and helping other people to merge onto the highway. Now, I know on this overpass here there is a lane that is merging, and I'm looking behind me here. There's a truck in the other lane, but he's far back there. There are some cars that are merging here, and I'm doing exactly 90 kilometers an hour, and I simply just move over to the other lane. Now, the other thing that you can do, and we'll do this up here farther, is just let off on the throttle. You don't have to brake most of the time. You just let off on the throttle, and the other cars are accelerating while you're decelerating. That is almost twice the amount of speed that you're traveling, because they're trying to accelerate up to the road speed and you're decelerating. Therefore, instead of, say, approximately 90 kilometers an hour, now it's 160 or 170 kilometers an hour that the two of you are moving away from each other because you're decelerating and they're accelerating. So when vehicles are getting on the roadway, there's lots of space if you just let off the throttle a little bit, and you're not going to slow down that much, maybe 10 or 15 kilometers an hour, or 10 or 15 miles an hour. 15 miles an hour is probably extreme. You're probably going to go from 65 to 60 if you're traveling along a highway or an interstate, to let other traffic onto the freeway, interstate, or motorway, depending on where you are in the world. So it's something that I always say. I've had quite a few questions of late about merging lanes. that drivers need to get out on the merging lane and they need to match the flow of traffic, not necessarily the posted speed limit, but stay on the ramp all the way to the end, get your vehicle up to the speed of the flow of traffic. And as you're coming out, you're communicating early, you've got your signal on all the way out on the on-ramp and the acceleration lane to indicate to other traffic that you are merging onto the highway. That way it gives them lots of opportunity. See here, I just let off the throttle and this guy in front of me is accelerating, and I slowed down approximately 10 kilometers an hour, and by the time I let my foot off the throttle there, that vehicle that had pulled out in front of me there, he just accelerated up to speed, and I just let off the throttle and I slowed down 10 kilometers an hour, approximately 6 miles an hour, and I didn't have to move over to the other lane, and I wasn't right up on him, the vehicle in front of me, as you saw there in the image. So it works really well. You just let your foot off the throttle and adjust speed and help the other traffic to get out onto the roadway. And people have asked me, stopping on acceleration lanes, if you're stopping on acceleration lanes, you're just asking for trouble because you're committing an unpredictable action. And one of the reasons that, in my professional opinion, that traffic crashes occur is because cars, drivers of vehicles, commit unpredictable actions. And when you commit an unpredictable action and other drivers don't expect you to do that, for example, stopping on an acceleration ramp or stopping halfway through a turn, other drivers don't expect you to do that. And if you do that and they're following too close, they're going to run into you. So I do not, in any stretch of the imagination, advocate you stopping on acceleration lanes. Get out there and get your vehicle up to the flow of traffic and pick your gap, communicate early, and you will move over onto the traffic. And as well, for the vehicles out on the highway, simply move over and let the other vehicles in. If you can't move over, then get your foot off the throttle and decelerate. By the time you're decelerating and the other vehicle is accelerating, as you saw here in the image, the other vehicle is going to be able to get up to highway speed, up to the flow of traffic, whichever is less, and you're simply just going to have to slow down a little bit and then adjust your speed. And this is another thing that when you're learning how to drive, you always just work the throttle, up and down on the throttle. Now you can see here this vehicle's coming out in front of me. There's no risk of us intersecting or our paths colliding. I don't even have to adjust my speed because that vehicle is accelerating and getting out onto the highway really well, up to speed. The vehicle's probably doing the posted speed limit of 100 kilometers an hour now. So now the driver has his or her signal on again, and they didn't even slow down on the highway. They waited till they got in the deceleration lane, and then they slowed down to make the right-hand turn there on the highway. Now I've got my signal on early, and I'm getting up to the speed limit. I've got a huge gap. There's a motorcycle back there, and I'm now doing the posted speed limit. The motorcycle is moving over, and I shoulder check, and I simply drift over, or not drift over, move over into my lane. Very controlled in how I do it. And the traffic flow is about 100 kilometers an hour. Set my cruise and move. And now the motorcycle, you can see the motorcycle here in the dash cam coming along, and that motorcycle saw me and merging out onto the highway and just moved over to the other lane. So the motorcycle helped me merge onto the highway. And for those of you coming down the freeway in one of the other previous videos, and I'll put a card up in the corner for you here, you have to take note of where the merge lanes are, and you can see those with the road signs along the highway. They will give you good indication. You just take note of where the off-ramp is, and most of the time, maybe not some of the interstates and motorways in other parts of the world, but where there's an off-ramp, there's also going to be an on-ramp most of the time. So you're looking, you're scanning as you're driving down the interstate, the freeway, or the motorway, and you're taking note of where those on-ramps are. That way you can either move over to the other lane to allow merging traffic to get onto the highway. Now you can see here there's an off-ramp, so up here on the other side there's going to be an on-ramp. So I'm scanning down over there and making sure that there aren't any vehicles coming back out onto the highway, because if there's vehicles coming out onto the highway, I'm going to move over. So I I can see the on-ramp here. There's a vehicle coming, there's another vehicle here right in front of me, and I just let off the throttle. I've canceled the cruise and I'm decelerating, and you can see that vehicle in front of me is accelerating, and there's lots of space for that vehicle to get over, and all I did was just take my foot off the throttle and just decelerate it just a little bit. So you can see how that works. For those of you driving along freeways and interstates, take note of where the off-ramp is. There's usually going to be an on-ramp, and then note the vehicles coming out on the on-ramps and simply just either decelerate a little bit to let them get out onto the road, or move over to the other lane if you can, or if it's you have to through necessity. So that's how you help other vehicles to merge out onto the highway. Quick review of merging onto a freeway, motorway, or interstate. For those of you merging out onto the highway, do not stop on the acceleration lane. Simply match the flow of traffic, the speed of the flow of traffic on the highway, and the highway traffic will help you to create a gap that you can move into. Do not stop on the acceleration lane because it makes you unpredictable, and when you're unpredictable, you risk being rear-ended. It is very likely that you're going to rear-ended because the people behind you do not expect you to stop on that acceleration ramp. Now, for the people who are already on the interstate, freeway, or motorway, simply decelerate, and oftentimes if the person on the acceleration ramp, which most of the time they will be accelerating, and if you simply start to decelerate, the speed of those two vehicles moving away from each other will create a sufficient gap for the person to move into on the freeway, highway, or motorway. Now, if you can move over to the other lane, because you're gonna, as you're driving down the interstate, motorway, or freeway, you're taking note of where the on-ramps are, because you'll see an off-ramp, and very close to the off-ramp often is the on-ramp, and just simply note the traffic coming out on the on-ramp. If you take note of that, you're not gonna be caught out by the fact that, oh my God, there's a car there that's trying to merge onto the highway, freeway, or interstate, because you can see, and sometimes you're gonna have to look out over the overpass to see those vehicles coming onto the highway, freeway, or motorway. And if you can, then you can simply move over to the other lane, because you'll have enough time to change lanes and create a space for that vehicle to merge out onto the highway, freeway, or motorway. If you don't, or there's a vehicle there and you can't get over, then you simply just take your foot off the throttle or cancel the cruise and start to decelerate, which will create enough of a gap. And if the people on the acceleration lane in fact do accelerate and do not stop, which they should not do in any case unless it's an absolute emergency, and even then I don't advocate ever stopping on an acceleration lane, then there's enough of a gap that's created that those vehicles will be able to move out onto the highway, freeway, or interstate. Question for my smart drivers: have you ever had a driver stop on an acceleration lane and catch you out where you just about rear-ended them? Leave a comment down in the comment section there. All of that helps out the new drivers learning how to drive. If you like what you see here, share, subscribe, leave a comment down in the comment section. As well, hit that thumbs up button. Check out all the videos here on the channel if you're working towards a license or starting a career as a bus or truck driver. Lots of great information here. As well, head over to the website, awesome information over there, and tremendous online courses that you can purchase. I'm Rick with Smart Drive Test. Thanks very much for watching. Good luck on your road test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great day. Bye now. I didn't see the emergency vehicle, so saw the emergency vehicle because that other vehicle. Now, I have to be careful here because these vehicles are pulling off.